Here we're going to talk about the winner of Chat Tournament or Weekly Open number 27, Turdz, and how he went and won it. What he did along the way, if we can notice any stylistic things, and if we can just celebrate some nice playing. So we're going to go through all his games. Luckily, he did me a massive favor and won much more quickly this time than the last one we looked at. I enjoyed analyzing the complex, longer matches, but it is also nice to not make videos that take as much time to put together. So this time we're going to be talking about Turdz' win in Chat Tournament 27. I also want to say I think it's really cool. His first opponent is Vialva, and I think this is always the most fun thing when there is a reigning champion of some kind of event, and the winner of the next event manages to knock them out on the way there. I think that's always nice. It doesn't happen very often. In fact, I wonder how many, if you look at major tournaments, how many tournaments have been won by someone who beat the previous winner of a major tournament. I bet it's very few. Obviously, TTAC inherently has built that in, or at least used to, but that's still the winner of the prior TTAC, not the winner of the prior tournament. I bet it's pretty infrequent. Anyway, it's cool when it happens. Obviously, lots of competitions have a you have to beat the champion to be the champion kind of thing. And lots of competitive sports type systems, most do not have that. But it's sort of nice when it happens. So here we're going to see Turdz playing Vialva. Turdz is on second turn. Now, per usual, I'm going to focus on the player we're emphasizing here. But there's actually a few weird things in this game. I started skimming it on my own because it just looked interesting. And I just want to show some kind of craziness the solver brings out because this is wild to see this. So we know from seeing previous Vialva stuff, and this is just one tournament after the last, so presumably his style hasn't changed too much. People's preferences definitely change quite significantly over time. For instance, in the 2021 November GB, I think Yevon played very, very differently than he did in the Xmas 2022 GB. Obviously, he put up a much higher score, but I don't. I think there were differences that weren't just kind of did he happen to calculate better or worse at the time, because that happens, but also just like his early play was very different in style. It was really curious to watch, and maybe we'll explore that at some point. But this is one tournament later, so Vialva's style should be pretty consistent. And from that, we'd expect him to drop a card in 5 or play a side starter if he sees a clear pairing. Here, his hand does not necessarily have a clear pairing, though you could certainly expect him. I think seeing him and seeing this hand, you might think there's a pretty good chance of 3 7 2 7 and 4, with the pairing being 7 6 4 5, right? These two cards, it recaptures above and below, and the 6 facing out is not touchable via Turd's hand. In fact, if I was watching this game, that's probably what I would guess would happen. It also pairs with the 5 5 6 6, which also has the double captures. But that's not what we saw. And this is the first corner starter we're seeing out of Vialva, but I don't think it's all that different than previous, because I think the one time he is drawn to very early corners, sometimes it's opposite corner play, but if it's not opposite corner play, the reason he goes to it is if it's safe. And here he can play a safe starter. And already of Turd's 40 moves available, because he has 5 cards for 8 potential squares, 40 possible moves, 38 of them lose. And Turdz is going to go on to win this game, so that's pretty impressive. Spoilers. Now, the 2 moves that don't lose, I think, are 2 of the more plausible moves to look at. I think there's a few moves that might pop out. One is the move that's played. I think this is quite logical, setting up in both 4 and 8, and this is the move that was played, and this is probably the best move. And keep this move in mind because it will show up again. Then there are a whole bunch of moves that are safe, and these are, I think, the next moves you might look at. There's 6 7 2 5 here. There's 6 7 3 5 here. There's 7 7 1 4 here. There's 7 7 1 4 here. There's 6 7 3 5 here, and there's 6 7 2 5 here. Now, of those 6 potential safe moves, if I told you, one of them ties, you might think, oh yeah, that's an easy move to find. But if I tell you there are 6 moves that are safe, and only one of them ties. Can you figure out which one ties? I think that is a much more difficult project. Much more difficult. And like you might say, okay. So you start somewhere like here. All right. Do they have a big setup? You know, maybe something like this is a really big setup. And you say, okay, I want a 6-7 version, right? One of these two cards. All right. But maybe they have a pretty similar setup here, right? So, you know, you look for setups, there's setups against all of them, whether it's 6-7 or a 7-7 corner. Is there a difference between the 6-7-3-5 and 6-7-2-5? Given that I've said only one is safe, either there must be or the answer must be on the 7-7-1-4. I'm going to reveal in a sec, but if you have a pick here, I'd love to hear the reasoning people have, because I think it couldn't possibly be correct, the reasoning, but you might get there. Like, it couldn't possibly be like the perfect calculation, because the calculation that justifies this is like just this completely insane, ridiculous line that you're never going to see from this position, in my opinion. But I'd be really curious if people. I think you could get the right answer via simpler heuristics, but I think it would be hard to justify. I just want to explore it because I think it's fun. The tying move is this, and the critical variation is 7-5-3-5 here, which is safe. Now we, I think, must play 7-5-5-3 to tie, and the critical variation is if we had done it with 6-7-3-5 instead, then this loses to 3-7-2-7 and 6. Anything we stick here, we lose to this move, and 7-6-4-5, we can only take one card, and they will take a card back if we do. So we lose here. However, if we started with 6-7-2-5 in this ridiculous line to see at distance, 3-7-2-7 and 6 does not win. But why not? What difference does that make? This is another fun position to just stop and calculate if you want to, but I'm going to say the answer in a sec. The ridiculous tie here, what an absurd way to get to a tie, is this, and the key difference between using 6-7-2-5 and 6-7-3-5 is there's now a plus in 3. Did you see that coming from like 6 moves ago? I certainly would never have, but just a completely insane line where the second turn player must find exactly this move and then exactly this move to hold the tie, and that just one of the stranger kind of sequences I've ever seen. And it doesn't work if you start like this, and apparently it doesn't work if you start like this, nor does it work if you start in 4. What's going on there? Who could play that? Turdz played the much more sensible move, and we're now going to continue and stop with the kind of wild variations. But I hope that was somewhat interesting, because just what a strange sequence, right? And again, shows that this puts tremendous pressure. Now, Villalva, per usual, goes for maximum combo play, setting up 7-5-3-5 and 2, setting up 3-7-2-7 and 4. Now, my instinct as Turdz would very much be Villalva doesn't have 8, he has 2 and 4, so I should play something blocking 4. And based on the last line we looked at, we might think 6-7-2-5 is the best way to do it. This actually is fine. It doesn't lose, but it doesn't win. And I think the reason it doesn't win is a move Villalva would be very happy to find here. 3-7-2-7 in 9. Setting up 7-5-3-5 to just land really hard in all of 2, 4, and 8. And based on having seen games he's played, I'm sure this was an idea in mind for him. Turdz went with a better move, and a move that actually wins on the spot. He went with 6-7-2-5 and 8, which I think is a difficult move to play for a couple of reasons. An obvious strength is it is safe towards 9, but a weakness is, A, it walks into a bunch of combos, or one big combo, and B, it removes a square from the board that Villalva wasn't good on, right? It leaves the squares Villalva is very powerful on, and gets rid of the one square Villalva didn't have combo play. But Turdz has calculated this out very well, because if Turdz can occupy 4, then there's no problem. Nothing's getting comboed back. That card in 8 is just safe. So Villalba kind of has to occupy 4 immediately. There's nothing better. And Turdz has 2 at the end. And now by playing 8, forcing 4 and then 2, he now has removed both of Villalba's combo squares and left him with no power to the left. Villalba plays a 9, and now Turdz can just block 6 and win 6-4. So I think a really nicely won game from a quite complicated position. The solver says there are also wins in 4, that you have to be very careful about which card you play there. And this one doesn't win, but this one apparently maybe does. So if your solution to the last position was, use the 6-7-2-5 because the 6-7-3-5 is a little stronger and you actually got that one right somehow, here the same reasoning wouldn't work. I wonder why not. Let's find out. No, this doesn't win either. Sorry, neither of them win. I am lying, and this in fact is the more testing move because it forces this. I shouldn't say lying, I should say mistaken. But I believe this does win. Yeah, this one would win. Anyhow, really complicated game, and I really liked how Turdz handled it because I think the kind of intuitive thing is to be thinking about 4 because 2 and 4 are the squares you need to get rid of. But he saw that 8 forces the occupation of 4, and then he gets rid of 2, and with this very nice sequence, leads to a winning endgame. So Turdz is into the semifinals with winning his first game, and in his second game, he has first turn, and he is playing against AI Edgar, better known to people now as Bot Club Spade, who is, of course, the best or second best, depending on which you think is better, of Spade and Joker, of the Bot Club AIs that are regularly around, and very clearly a very competent player. Turdz starts in 3. Safety is pretty good, and is met by a very reasonable response. This should be very reminiscent of the last game, where there is a safe corner that is really hard to deal with unless you can set up in 5 against it. And Spade immediately sets up in 5. And this kind of thing, if I see, usually puts me off this kind of starter. But I think here Turdz sees some benefits. 1, Turdz has set himself up in 6. 2, if the bot occupies 6, Turdz has safety in 9 in response. So this 9-1-1-9 has both a big threat in 6 and it covers in 9, right? It's really good in either of these squares. So he only has to hold on to 1 card to have some coverage of both of these squares. And 2, he plays another really interesting move here. He plays 9-2-8-6 and 4. And this is surprisingly high pressure. And he's really playing to have combo potential against 5. And this looks quite vulnerable in some ways, right? It looks like it's just conceding ground. But this is actually a trap. 7, which looks... okay, so 7 can be captured. But this is actually not the best move. It's actually here. There's another card that hits 6 well. Okay, I'm not noticing things immediately. But yeah, 7-4-7-8, of course, gives some coverage of that. So it's a card that's tricky to take, and if it's not taken, Turdz threatens to go in 7 himself. Yeah. Curious position. If the bot goes in 6, Turdz is ready to play safely in 9. And I think actually has decent cards for that endgame, because actually the 5-6-8-5 almost sweeps Spade's hand, right? Spade's 5s and 9 to the left are well covered by that. So the T's look really favorable here. Yeah, this looks like a difficult position for the bot to play. And the bots played the favorite bot move, which is in this J structure, way more than humans play. Bots like to go in 9. And this sets up a plus an 8 for 6-9-3-6. It blocks the capture back square, so now there is a serious threat for the bot to go in 6. Remember, Turdz does not... oh, Turdz does have a recapture in 2. I totally missed 5-6-8-5. This all makes so much more sense now. 5-6-8-5 is great in both these squares. I am slow. In my defense, it is quite late at night, and I am recording before going to sleep. So it turns out there is only one winning move for Turdz here, and I think it is not an obvious move. The first instinct would be to block 6, And given that there is a combo threat in 2, you either need to block 6 in a way that is safe to combo back, or in a way that does not flip 5, such that if they combo you, you have ways to combo back. But of course, this line doesn't work because there's a combo at the end. So in fact, this does not win. It loses, and it loses because they can combo you immediately. And if you combo back, as we just saw, you lose. And can I play the move? There we go. And if you don't combo back, if you try to delay somewhere, here, you don't have anywhere. Your 5, 6, 8, 5 has no other square it hits hard. So you can't like play here and set something up with it. They just now block the square and you lose. So it's tricky because you don't actually have a good move in 6. This loses too, to the same reason. You don't actually have the combo back. I guess actually either one here. So you don't have 6. And if you don't have 6, these are quite tricky positions to play. But what Turdz notices really well here is 5, 6, 8, 5 is a bomb in 2 and 6. So he wants to leave 2 and 6 open. He actually finds the only win here. This is another position that I don't think I'm going to take the time to fully explore. But what he does makes sense, and it turns out it is the only win. What he does is he says, I want to leave 2 and 6 open, and I want to do something useful on the board. And the most useful thing I can do on the board is lock in 4. And to lock in 4, I need to play in 7. But even still, you have an important choice. And one of 9, 1, 1, 9, and 7, or 7, 4, 7, 8, and 7, one of them wins, one of them ties. Which one wins? Well, 9, 1, 1, 9 has more play in either 6 or 8, but 7, 4, 7, 8 has more play in 2, and potentially more... it's hard to imagine it having more play in 1. My instinct would be... Well, first we got to check if either of them's comboed, because that's vaguely important. Neither of them seem to walk into a combo. So my temptation would be to play 7, 4, 7, 8 there. That seems deader. And that is wrong. 9, 1, 1, 9, which Turdz finds, is the only win in 7 here, and the only win in the position. And Spade played 8, and now Turdz is the big move in 1. Because the critical difference was not whether it sweeps in 6 or 8, it's that by playing 7, 4, 7, 8, and 1, he sets up a bigger plus in 2, and now he has huge combos through 5 everywhere, because he now set up a plus on 5. And that was the key difference. This was, again, I think both these games just show really elite calculation from Turdz. This is a difficult position to calculate, even if you think this is one of the first moves you check. And I think you're checking 6 first. Every square can have reasons to be correct in these structures, and so it can be really hard to jump to the right move and to note just quite what the combo potential is here and set it up at a delay, right? He doesn't start going here, which would set up both combo squares, but doesn't work. It loses. They just block 2, and you're like, aha, I got you. And they're like, okay, but did you? To do this first and set it up at distance. And incidentally, this, as I said, was the only win. Really masterful calculation. And I think that's what we've seen in both games, is opponents having combo squares, both Villalba and Spade here, and Turdz handling them really well and ending up with the critical combos himself by forcing them to play combos that only set him up better later. And this is also a kind of game where I might not be able to do it justice because I'm just speaking through stuff and not calculating all the lines. And I think the calculation here is really critical. The bot ended up going here, and Turdz wins 7-3 to advance to the finals in just 2 games played. I want to correct something from game 1. I forgot to mention, I think, that game didn't have plus wall on. So you may have had some calculations assuming plus wall that it wasn't on. Sorry about that. My bad. I should have really mentioned that. That's quite relevant to the calculations there, and may have screwed that up. I'll try to put that in the notes. I'll really try to get that in the notes. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I should make sure to upload it today so that I do remember to adjust the notes, because yeah, that'd be easy to screw up. So okay, that said, we got another match to look at. This time it does have plus wall, and the last game did have plus wall, just the first one didn't. So here we got Turdz versus Nemesis Divina, and Nemesis Divina has knocked out Akiyama in one game and Yevon in one game. So in fact, both of our finalists have gotten there here without giving up a single tie. And we enter the final game. Turdz his first turn, and we're playing level 6? So 3376 can't be right. There must be an error here. Do you think that's 8-7? Huh. 3387 I think is a card. I'm going to go check that 3387 is a level 6 card. But I think if that's the case, I'll reload the game and we'll load it with 3387. Because this can't be right. It's level 6, it's not level 4. Shoot, where is everything? Desktop, go, run program. Alright, logging in. I should really have paused the video. I've been doing that between games just so I can type in the cards without it taking a while. But now we're committed to looking this up. Level 6, 3, 3, 8, 7. This does exist. It's a Xenogears card. Wonderful. Okay. Turdz starts in 5. Interesting. Turdz really varies up his starters. He is kind of every starter-ish move in his range. There's some obvious synergy here with 3387. And as I've said, I think 5 starters help up, down, and side-to-side cards. So 7627 and 8463 are probably better than they'd normally be. But there is a chance I have the cards wrong to this game, so I just want to say any evaluation or calculations here. It will be clear at the end if they follow an exact line that I did get the cards right, but otherwise we may end up feeling like, really should have, really a shame I don't have the confidence I have the exact cards. You will also notice there are a lot of shared cards in the hands, right? Both cards, hands of 7763, both hands of 7627. So we can assume, I think, that this was a fairly narrow rule set. Now the solver is actually telling me that over half of Nemesis Divina's moves here lose after this starter. So either this is actually a quite good starter, and I'm not very good at judging center starters, so I don't have the heuristics to say why it would be so good, or this is a pretty big hand advantage. It doesn't look obvious to me that that should be the case. So I think this is actually a very good starter. I just don't know if I can tell you why. Nemesis Divina goes in 1. Now Turdz can't take that from 2. He does have access from 4. A lot of the times my instinct would be, okay, grab immediately. So like the kind of line I'd look at here is like, okay, what if I take it? And if you take back, I grab safety here, and hopefully this is good for me. And it is. This is good for me. There's only 1 tie. That's not trivial to find. On the other hand, they could also play something like here, but we have that one covered. Maybe here, but we have that one covered too. I don't know. This looks like a good move. Solver says pretty good. Turdz goes a different route. He sets up in 9. And again, Turdz is playing for pretty high combo synergy here. Incidentally, the solver says my idea of a move in 4 gives the opponent only 4 ties. But after Turd's move, Nemesis Divina only has 3 ties. And I feel I am not explaining Turd's moves very well today, but here we can see some points. 5863 is now a house in 4 and 8, right? If 4 and 8 are left open, that card's just winning the game. Second of all, sorry, I thought we had some coverage of some squares that I'm not sure we do now. Alright. No, that's about all I'm seeing. Surprised there's only 3 ties here. But notably, 2 of them are getting rid of 4, but none of them are getting rid of 8. So there is a question like, why doesn't a move like this tie, right? This seems like a functional, useful move to do. And that is, sorry, that was what was played. So Nemesis Davina does something I think is really totally reasonable. And Turdz recaptures in 6, and this is actually winning. Why is this winning? I guess 5863 kind of dominates the left. Huh. It's very rough that this card doesn't capture, right? That's a big drawback. Because it means 7627 is guaranteed to go even up top. At least even. Right? And the only way 5863 doesn't put up a plus on the left, because it can capture anything facing up here. It's very dominant. The only thing it goes even against is this. But if this happens, then 7627 is guaranteed a plus up top. Because actually this is defended, right? There is a plus there. So you can divide up the board into sections and see 7627 rules the top, 5863 rules the left. The only card that stops 7627 is 7852. The only card that stops 5863 is 7852, and it can't be played in both scenarios. So really nice feeling for 5863 just dominating the hands here, doing this kind of quick skim through the game. I didn't realize it controlled the 7s so well. Again, in these games, Turdz is showing such a good feel for exact numbers, making them exactly work. In the game against Vialva, in the game against Spade, in this game, just the exact control certain cards have, sign of really good calculation. This is something I was really impressed by, highlighting a different player now, but both players, but especially Akiyama in the semifinals of Triad Wars. I thought Akiyama versus Seto, kind of every other game, there'd be some variation that like looked like it should be good for Seto, and then you calculate it out to the end and you're like, oh, Akiyama has a card there that just lines up perfectly against everything Seto has. And it wasn't like luck or something like that. It was he had just such a good feel for where the numbers were lining up. And there were all these positions where it's sort of like a first instinct might be Seto's doing well here. And then you check the key line and you're like, wait up. Akiyama calculated this beautifully and has such a good feel for which cards are going to dominate at the end. And I get that similar feeling here with this 5863, just completely controlling the whole game. I was just looking in this position for like, what's a normal move to make? Okay, you don't want to leave 5863 with 4 and 8. What's a move you could play in 4 or 8 that's like, you know, either safe or kind of a pain to take? And I thought, okay, so, you know, sure, they can take you, but you can take back here. And this seems pretty pleasant. The card in 2 is locked in. And if they don't take you, I mean, it just seemed a reasonable way to play. But Turdz had it all figured out here. Nemesis Davina had the same instincts I did. And now it's just a win. 7852 finds its home in 2. Again, it is a card that can either dominate. I mean, it is the one card he can put up that scores well here. Now, either card in 3 wins. I would have played it this way because 5863 feels like my winner. But Turdz points out 7627 now has it as well, because it controls anything in 4 and threatens to win in 1. Nemesis Davina goes in 4, and Turdz pulls out the win. And so 3 games played, 3 wins. Hard to beat that. Hard to notice as many patterns with his play because he didn't play nearly as many games, right? We saw, what, 14 games of Vialva? And this is not to say Vialva like did worse than Turdz winning his, because Vialva did it against really tough competition, playing really good games. But Turdz puts up a clean sweep here. On first turn, he plays a safe corner one game, but also a well-supported corner, such that when the opponent set up in 5, he still had good control over it. And a 5-starter here that turned out to be a really strong 5-starter. And I would be interested to hear what the thinking was, if he remembers, it was a long time ago, behind this 5-starter, because it's not a move I'd look at, but it evidently proved really strong and set up a really powerful slash where just very good feel for which cards would be effective in the resulting positions. And seeing that 5386 would be such a sweeper here, I think really nice and very specific vision. So nicely won chat tournament by Turdz. Hope you enjoyed this one, and we're gonna keep going looking through the winners of different tournaments. The next one has so many ties in the first round. There was a rule set without plus, and that one might be quite exhausting to cover. But, oh god, I'm looking at it now. I will spoil something. You've seen Turdz win quickly. Next time, you will see Turdz win slow. Really impressive achievement from him, winning 2 chat tournaments in a row, and we'll find out how he did it next time.